Well, hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John. This is episode 305, and that's kind of fun to think about that. We've been doing this a couple of years, and each and every week I sit down here at my microphone and in my office, and I answer your questions. If you have questions, please send them to the podcast at DanJohnUniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each and every one, and we got a lot of questions today, so I hope I get through them all. Our first question is from Shane. This is interesting because Shane starts off with, I'm 6'6", basically 2 meters, 225 pounds, 41 years old male with an unfortunate build. I take full responsibility for this. Compound interest works not only for investing, but a lifetime of bad habits. I got broad shoulders and a decent definition in the upper half of my torso, but I have love handles and the legs of a baby giraffe. Looking to shed midsection fat and add mass in my legs and glutes. I would like to know what the best bang for my buck is when it comes to the bottom half of the body, and does my height factor in? Well, I think you can benefit from one of my programs, but Shane, one big thing, at 6'6", yeah, the height does come in, and it's a real advantage. I mean, as a discus thrower, you're just about perfect height. Maybe a little short for some positions in the NBA, but you'd make a great collegiate tight end with those numbers. So yeah, height is a real advantage on the field of play, but it can be a disadvantage in the weight room. So listen, it comes down very simply, Shane. You got to work your legs, okay? Well, they were shocking. But the other thing you got to take seriously is walking. Now, I don't know what your goal weight would be, but that's something I want you to think about. So let's just go through the basics real quick. I think at some level, you at least have to know your caloric intake. For me, it only took me 2 or 3 days to figure out the big hitters. For me, I am now to the point that, I fast every morning. I drink a lot of coffee, and I fast after I get my workout and my walk in. Then I eat a brunch, and it's 2 eggs, cottage cheese, a protein smoothie with 3 different berries, all from Costco, kimchi, and sometimes leftover meat and sometimes other things. In the afternoon, I try to have a fruit snack. Generally, lately it's been apples most of the time, but as the harvest picks up this time of year, it'll be more variety. Oranges more in the winter, of course. And I have a chocolate protein shake for dessert every night. And then for dinner, I just try to ratchet it into a protein and veggies. Though actually, I've been eating a lot of potatoes lately because, it's funny when people say potatoes are they're high calorie. If you do the math, they're not very bad. But the big thing for me, besides, once you get a handle on your current caloric intake, try to look at a few meals every day. If you're eating 2 meals and 2 snacks or 3 meals, whatever it is, try to be as consistent as you can on at least well over half. So you're eating 4 meals a day, half, make it just, exactly the caloric intake. And then, just like my friend Mike Brown always says, just make better choices on the other meals. Don't clean everybody's plates. The next big one is walking. I've been a fan of walking for a long time. In our gym, we've been doing walks after workouts now for a couple of years. We learned this from Rusty Moore years ago, and it's been a game changer for a lot of us. I like walking after I work out, but you asked specifically about workouts. I'm going to tell you from the heart, if you're a kettlebell guy, the armor building formula, because you're going to be doing lots and lots and lots of squats. And don't be afraid of those overhead presses, okay? Because I think even though you have broad shoulders and decent definition, especially, since you're between 35 and 55, any strength you put on in the traditional simple lifts, the squat, the hinge movement, the press, the pull, that's going to carry off well past 55 into your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. If you're a barbell guy, I would suggest the barbell version that's in the Armor Building Formula book. It is a hypertrophy book, a bodybuilding book for what I call everybody else, just regular people. But there's a lot of squats in both programs. And the other thing it'll be good for you, there's a bit of dynamic work in there, which I think is always good long-term for anybody. On the love handles, that's going to be caloric intervention and walking to build up those legs. Those rounds of 3 squats each will probably take care of most of that. Armor building formula, you can find it at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore or at armorbuildingformula.com. That's what I recommend for you. I think you'll like it. And get back to me once you get going on the program, okay? I'd like to know how this is going. So thank you. Lance has been fun. He's been sending me some updates through the years. Lance says this: as you have seen in my previous emails, my son and I are working our way through your programs, which I think is just fun. We did easy strength and mass made simple last year. I then did 1 lift a day protocol while he was away at summer camp. We kicked off the year with the Arnold Basic Program. That's from the Easy Strength Omni book. And thank you, it includes the page 65. I got to tell you, that's one thing about the Easy Strength Omni book. There's a lot of historical stuff in there because I still believe that what we learned in the 40s, 50s, and early 60s, is a lot better for most of us than the anabolic era that we live in today. So his question is, what's next? I want to do easy strength and the ABF workout with the ABF book, page 112. My son wants to do a more traditional back buys, chest tries, leg day program. What would you recommend? Okay, interesting. You don't include your age on this one, but it's funny about your son because I think after age 55, they call it the bro split now. Back and buys, chest and tries, leg day. Of course, I would focus a lot more on the shoulders than the chest because I just think long-term for shoulder health, and I just think people who military press look better than people bench press, and that's just a personal thing. But I would say the older you get, the more and more you want to do that bodybuilding split. I love the idea of you guys doing the easy strength ABF workout. It's on page 112 in the Armor Building Formula. For those of you who are not familiar with the work, I always feel like we're talking in a code right here. Get yourself a membership to danjohnuniversity.com or just get some of my books. I have a lot of programs that are pretty popular. The 10,000 Swing Program, the Armor Building Formula, Mass Made Simple, and Lance and his son have been doing these for a while. So I think you could probably arrange easy strength ABF program into something that would make him happy. And the reason I'm saying that is the ABF becomes the high intensity part of the workout, and you could probably tailor the easy strength work with stuff he wants to do. I mean, frankly, if you're doing the armor building complex 3 days a week and you're doing easy strength, 5 days a week, that's not the program in the book, but it was just a thought. I mean, there's not much you're not covering. And just keep reminding him as best you can, Lance, that true long-term lean body mass is, and I've thought this for a long time, it's the number of plates you put on in the weight room. It's the stronger you get, the longer this stuff seems to stick around. This is my 60th year of lifting weights, and I'm really glad when I was younger that I did a lot of that stuff, like the military press, like the Olympic lifts, like the deadlifts, because when I do move, at my age now, I'm starting to do a lot more bodybuilding movements. Yesterday I was curling, and the reason I even say it was interesting is because one of our new gym members thought it was pretty amazing to watch. But I curl 135 for 8. Well, the number of curls I've done in my life, bodybuilding style, there wouldn't be very many. I just haven't done a lot of curls in my career. As an Olympic lifter, as a thrower, there was value to it, but you were getting so much other work. I could avoid it. Of course, with the kettlebell, especially the kettlebell clean, it's a great bicep exercise. So he's going to get his guns workout in, and he's going to get his all of his other work in by just doing a more traditional program And you can make it look palatable, Lance, by just kind of moving a few things around. And I think that's kind of the job of a coach sometimes. I'm working on a book right now, and one of the things I believe as a coach or trainer, you always focus on what the client or the athlete needs, but you also got to give them what they want, because they want to do certain things. My high school throwers, they probably don't need to do certain bodybuilding exercises, but they kind of want to look good for whatever reason. Like I've told them 100 times, if you try some hygiene, like shower after your workouts, brush your teeth and floss, and maybe comb your hair, and maybe wear clothes that look good on you, and learn how to dance, you'd probably do much better with the fair sex than smelling like some of my athletes do. So try to sell it to him with the idea that you're giving what he wants, but you're still focusing on what he needs. Okay, thanks. Pretty fun question, and I just love the fact that you're going through the whole body of work. When you do Mass Made Simple, again, try the 10,000 swing challenge, the 20 days to month before. All right, thanks so much, Lance. Always love hearing from you and your adventures in the weight room. We got a question here from Ken. Ken says, I'm 40 years old and I'm a lifelong athlete. I've been alternating armor building formula and easy strength for about 6 months. That's a pretty good program. I am dumbfounded that for the last 32 years of sports, none of my former training routines can hold a candle to what your programs have given me. I got to tell you, Ken, that means a lot, because, A, I work hard in this stuff, and, B, I think I have a lot of experience, but it's nice to hear somebody who has experience recognizing that, so I much appreciate it. For example, I just did a half-day whitewater rafting trip with my son, and the other day I went for a casual half-mile ocean swim while on holiday, because, why not, he says. Frankly, I just don't feel like I have any limits right now. It's fantastic. So my question is this: for the next 15 plus years, do I really need anything other than these two programs? Let me double check your age again. Yeah, he's 40, folks, so 15 years gets him to 55, which to me is kind of one of those little lines in the sand. For the next 15 plus years, do I really need anything other than these two programs? So far, I've done 2 full doses of the armor building formula and easy strength in the middle, with 1 or 2 weeks of rest and recovery, I love that, before starting the next program. I'm starting a new 40-day easy strength cycle next time with the different variations on the movements, love it, and I'm super excited. I don't see this excitement diminishing anytime soon because I continue to progress so measurably, and there are so many variations of both programs. Is this bound to blow up in my face at some point? If I'm planning for longevity, what else might I consider? Okay, let's get right to longevity, and then we'll backfill the key question here. I'm hoping you're seeing the dentist. I go 3 times a year. I'm hoping you're going to an eye doctor once a year. I hope you can go to a medical doctor and get an annual physical. Keep your, always uncomfortable, keep your colonoscopies up to date. And some places now, they're recommending as young as 40 to start those off. So you're right there. Take care of your community stuff. Make sure you have a good circle of friends worthy of the name, as Jerome K. Jerome reminds us of. Read some good books. Probably some caloric, know what your calories are as best you can. Keep your protein up. I just got another copy of Tufts. I get the Tufts monthly newsletter, and they recommend, I know this is in pounds, and it's the best I can do, but 0.8 grams of protein per pound. I'm trying to get down to 200, so that's 160 grams of protein a day, which I got to tell you, gentle listener, getting 160 grams of protein in a day, it can be work. I mean, the protein is very satiating, but that's something I want you to think about too. Now, sleep. You've got to make sure you have quality sleep. If you have some extra money in the next year or so, upgrade your mattress, your pillow, your blinds, how quiet you can make your bedroom, and all the rest. It's worth the money for all that. Can you do the armor building for me on easy strength for the next 15 years? Absolutely. And I loved what you say, because you're alternating. So listeners, what he's doing so well is he's doing 40 days of easy strength, and then he does the armor building formula. And then the next time he comes back to easy strength, he's doing some small, there's three in the book. I tell you, there's 3 kinds of variation. There's mild, there's wild, and there's no. And you going back and forth between the armor building formula and easy strength, there's a little bit of wild variation there, but there's also mild variation when you're going from, I usually use these examples, but you're going from the bench press to the incline. You're going to the pull up to the chin up. You're doing the heels together deadlift to the snatch grip deadlift, or whatever you're doing. Yeah, I think you can do it. In fact, the nice thing is, with all this enthusiasm you have, that's going to get you through a couple more years. Now, the only thing I do have to warn you, there's a good chance I might write another book, and then you're going to be stuck. You'll be like, now what do I do? And then we'll answer that at that time. I always have where programs come from me is generally to answer a question. Something comes up, the armor building complex comes up. It's a connect the dots between a whole bunch of experiences, and then a problem arose at the RKC, and the armor building complex came from that. But there's a whole bunch of dots floating out there that brought us the program. So who knows? Maybe in a month or two, something's going to come up, and I'll be doing something. I'll have a new program for you. But until you're 55, I like what you're doing. So one thing Ken is doing, folks, and it's important you hear this, I call it everyday strength. To me, it's great that we peak for weightlifting meets, and it's great that we put all that gear on for powerlifting meets, and you got the straps and the shirt and all that. That's great. But to me, the most important kind of strength to build from 35 to 55 is that what I call everyday strength. So if you were to take 6 weeks off, how strong would you be the first day, the second day, or the third day back from that vacation or forced whatever happened, okay? To me, that number that I haven't lifted in 6 months, but 2 workouts in, I benched this. That's the most important number. And over time, you want to nudge that everyday strength number up a little bit. Absolutely, I want you to train 3 days a week, and I want you to do all of this. But things do happen, and I just want that strength that just sticks with you to be as high as it possibly can. And outside of, investing early, paying off your mortgage, having savings, being in a great community, having people in your life that you trust and are wonderful, everyday strength is probably the best investment you can possibly have. Great question, Ken. Great question. Yeah, really good one. Thank you. We have a question from Dave. I have a question, says Dave, about using both versions of the armor building complex. I've been using kettlebells for about 10 years, but have only recently discovered the ABC. Following a recommendation you made to another listener, I have been alternating between the single kettlebell ABC and the humane burpee, using a 24 kilo bell for both. A 24 kilo bell on the full humane burpee, that's a tough one. That's the full humane burpee. That's the one that adds up to 150 swings, 55 goblet squats, and 55 push-ups. And I don't care who you are, doing 55 squats with 24K, really in 7 to 10 minutes is a lot of work. He says this, I recently picked up a second 20 kilo bell, and I've been working the double kettlebell ABC into that rotation. In your opinion, what would be the best way to use those 3 complexes together? Well, over there at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore, I have the armor building formula, where I have the double kettlebell workout, and then I also have the single kettlebell workout, and I give you 8-week programs on them. If you're going to rotate through those 3, I think what would be a good idea is this is just an idea, but I like it. It's going to be a rotating, you're going to lift 3 days a week, but there's 4 workouts. So it's going to be A, B, C, D with that. So A is Monday, B, Wednesday, C, Friday or Saturday. And D, the following Monday, bringing back up A on Wednesday. A, B, C, D, 4 workouts, 3 days a week. And once you graph it out, it'll make sense. But I'd like you to separate the single sides. So make the humane burpee, and let's do it this way. Make the humane burpee the A workout. Now, one thing is, the humane burpee by itself, there's a lot of work to it. 150 swings, 55 goblet squats, 55 push-ups. And, to quote Peggy Lee, is that all there is? Well, yeah, but that's a hard workout. That day, the A day, might be a good day to toss in all the other stuff you want to do. The B workout, and pick your side, do maybe, let's start with the left side ABC workout by itself. So what I'm thinking here, and if you followed, it would be clean, it's the clean press, but just stick with the one side. Now I'm going to change this in just a second to another idea, but let's keep going. The C day would be the double armor building complex, and that would be that's your 20s, okay? Now the reason I've split the 2 days is since you've got push-ups, you've got presses in every workout, you've got pushes in every workout. C day, the double armor building complex, if you're using double 20s, even though it is lighter per hand in toto, it's more. And then, of course, the D day would be the right side. D day, I love it. The right side. So that was one idea. The other idea would be just to swim through it in this way. Whatever workout you think is the hardest, make that the C workout. You only have 3 workouts this time. Where I'm at now, I think the humane burpee is the hardest of them because we do those nonstop. So it is an exhausting. When we get to round 7, which is 15 swings, 7 goblet squats, 7 push-ups, that's the one that kills me. I mean, I've got all the enthusiasm on 10. 9 is fine. 8 sucks. 7 sucks the most. But once you get to 6, you can see the port. You can see the port out there. Even though it's a storm, you can still see it. So let's just say you think the humane burpee is the hardest. Do the doubles on A day. Do the singles, both sides. Do it just like the video shows. And then on the C day, do the humane burpee. Are there gaps in the program? Your press numbers are going to be low but reasonable. You will be doing a lot of squats, between the single side and the double kettlebell. It's going to be a good amount of work. You get a lot of hinges in. I hope your swing technique is dialed in with the humane burpee. But I think it's a pretty good workout. I like this. The benefits of this kind of program is that you don't have to think a bunch. If you're going to come in and just do the double, you put the 220s on the ground, and I don't know, you can either set your clock or a timer or a beeper, and you just go, and you can almost turn your brain off on the double armor building complex. With the single, it's a little bit more of a dance because you have to kind of balance off the 2 sides, but it becomes real natural after the first, second, third, fourth time, or just rounds. And of course, with the humane burpee, you can get lost in the counting. That does happen to us sometimes, where someone will say something or do something, and you'll forget what round you're on. But if you do it in a group, it's a little easier. The benefits, you can shut your brain off for those 3 workouts. The benefits, you're doing a lot of work, every single workout here. The downside, you might be missing other stuff. You might notice, I always put hangs in the warm-up. If you like doing pull-ups or chin-ups, you can put them into one of those days. If there's another exercise you feel like you want to make sure you keep doing, I would put those in too. And just a reminder, Dave, there's no program that's perfect, but doing something like this seems, pretty good to me. And, that's my highest standard, is pretty good. Well, we have a question from Kelly. Kelly says, I'm a 63-year-old male, and I've been training consistently 3 to 5 days a week in a home gym using mostly kettlebells for the past 8 years. I've also consistently programmed hopping too much, progressing the weight too fast, eating too much, and just collecting lots of little nagging aches, pains, and strains. Now I'm ready to feel good again. My idea was to spend the rest of 2025 going back to the basics to see if I can rehab some of the aches and pains. I was thinking of using original strength, your planks as a program, would be helpful for my goal. Yeah, I think so too. You also have lots of good ideas in your book, The Kettlebell Workout Companion, for this strategy. Do you think this is a worthy strategy? Absolutely, I do, especially at your age 62. Now, what I would recommend, so we're new planks as a program. So you're going to start off, and folks, be sure you listen to what he said, because this doesn't happen. You know, it's fun sometimes, gentle listener, go down in the comments and read them. And sometimes you realize that the person did not listen to the whole thing. You can just always tell. So for somebody who's trying to get rid of kind of injuries that are bugging you, let's do the program. And I do this in my workshop, and you'll also find this in my book. It's only on Amazon. It's this one here. Oh, geez, I'm glad I have that. I usually don't. Yeah, it's this book here. It's over on Amazon. The ABCs and Fs of strength training, and it's on this page here. So it's going to be page 15, where I have the planks as a program. I'm going to read it to you, okay? So you're going to do planks first, the push-up position plank. Your rest period now would be prone neck nods, okay? Now, I expect people to be able to do a 2-minute plank, but maybe you want to do 3 1-minute planks to get those neck nods in the middle. The exercise we use in the pull is the bat wing. That's when you're laying face down on a bench. You can also do this with suspension trainers, but it's an isometric hold with your thumbs in your armpits, and you're trying to pin your elbows back together. Interesting, I work with people who can't even do this position here, okay? And what you would mix that exercise with, do maybe 3 to 5 rounds of a good isometric, maybe 10 seconds, and mix that with elbow rolls, okay? Elbow rolls are a great complement to pulling exercises. For hinge, we do the glute bridge with the ab hold. So you squeeze your butt up, or you can do hip thrusts, I imagine, but you want to do planks, and you're consciously pulling something. We use bands in my gym, and I'm doing the vertical plank here. Well, it's also the same position for the ab. And with that, we do 6-point rocks with that, okay? So with the hinge, the isometric hinge, which is a glute bridge, we do 6-point rocks. With the squat, you can do goblet squats. By the way, those sounds are my daughter's corgi. Her name is Grace, and she won't leave my sight here. So she's falling asleep and then waking up and yawning. Do goblet squats. Now, the goblet squat is a moving plank. Now, the exercise I would ping to that with, Tim calls them speed skaters. I call them frozones, but it's basically bird dogs, where instead of extending your hand this way, you extend your hand back. So my right middle fingers are trying to touch my left heel, and then you get yourself in a nice skating pattern. If you're doing 3 sets of 8 in the goblet squat with frozones, which is what we call them, it's a great exercise. You can also do just bird dogs too, I guess. And then the last exercise is farmer walks. So the farmer walk and the goblet squat are moving planks. And with those, I would do cross crawls. Left hand hits right knee, right hand hits left knee. And you can either do them marching in place. Right now, I'm doing them seated. You can do them I do them skipping in front of my house here. And my neighbors, I'm sure they think that's just wonderful. You could probably do that workout 2, 3, 5 days a week. The idea on the plank as a program mixed with the original strength is try to feel better when you walk out the door. And that's the final thing I want you to do. I want you to get walks in every day. Now listen, I'm doing 10,000 steps a day. There's nothing magical about 10,000, but I got to tell you one thing. I feel so much better when I get those 10,000 steps in. Great question. And thanks for picking up the Kettlebell Workout Companion. I'm really proud of the book. It's over on Amazon. But it's funny, I got a really negative review, and it's just funny to read it because it's a workout companion, not how to use kettlebells. And the person wrote something like, there's nothing here for beginners. Well, it's a workout companion. I've got dozens of books in here, like for, collegiate basketball training and all kinds of speed skating, cross-country skiing, triathlons, all kinds of books. But none of my triathlon books teach you how to ride a bike. My high-end triathlon books, there's no section on how to ride a bicycle or how to swim. They'll have little pointers on swimming, but very focused. So it's just kind of a funny criticism. Great question. Hey, as you go through this, I'm interested in this. Be sure you reach back to the podcast and let me know how it's going, okay? Thank you. Hey, this is a fun one to read, everybody. This is from Pete. This isn't a question, just a successful update for you. I messaged a while back about pressing tips to get the 32 kilogram bell up overhead. I could do the 24 for 3x10. You advise 2, 3, 5, 10, 2, 3, 5 reps, and to try the 32 after some rest from cycling and football. So I followed your rep scheme for a couple of weeks. Then this morning, cycling was canceled due to being February in England and what weather comes with that. I was feeling particularly rested and fresh after 9 hours of sleep and my Wheat Bix for breakfast, so I set aim at the 32. And I tell you, after a short warm-up, the 32 went up as light as a feather first time. Couldn't believe how easy it felt. 1 times 3 reps on each arm. That is fabulous. I am absolutely delighted about finally smashing this goal. So now I'm feeling smug, jacked, proud, powerful, etc., etc., etc. Clearly, there's some secret magic in your rep range formula. So just an update for you. Many thanks for your tips and keep up the great work. Thanks again from sunny England. I'll be there next spring. That's a great read and congratulations. So Pete did something that I like a lot. He stuck with the plan and he stuck with it. When he was fresh, he went after his goal and he nailed it. And I got to tell you, if I could summarize elite performance, I think I would just read somebody what you just wrote there. Because what elite performance is, you put the work in, you back off, and I explain to my athletes, it's like a bow and arrow. If you're near Nottingham, it would make more sense. A little Robin Hood joke. Most people I know with a bow and arrow, if they're training, they just keep pulling the string harder and harder and harder and harder until the bow and the string break. To really have great performance, you got to let it go. You got to let it fly. And the mistake most people make is they don't let it fly. So great job on that. And thanks for the updates. I love updates, folks. Thank you. Oh, we have a question from Mike that I was kind of looking forward to. I wanted to ask about sleep and meditation. You've brought up on a few podcasts that you recommend folks dial in their meditation practice and learn how to fall asleep quickly in any condition. Yeah, I learned that the hard way. I really struggled with sleep when I was a young athlete. And I got to tell you what saved me, and this is going to sound really weird about sleep anyway, is I got a job working in a cheese factory. I was a cleanup. It was pretty bad. But the work started at 10 o'clock at night. I got done at 6:30 in the morning. I had to teach myself to fall asleep anytime, anywhere. I got to the point that in a 15-minute break, I could go like this and sleep all 15 minutes and wake up. But I had to force myself to it. I wish I'd have done something like what Bud Winters recommends in the book, Relax and Win, which we'll talk about as we go. I'm curious if you'd be willing to share a bit more about your meditative practices and any tips for learning how to relax and fall asleep quickly. I feel like this would be a good skill to develop, and I'm curious what else you have to share on the topic. So sleep is an interesting thing. Some people find that cold exposure helps them sleep. I have a sauna right there. I have found that a sauna before sleep really helps me sleep. I have found that a glass of wine helps me sleep. I have found that 30 do not help me sleep. we're just different enough on sleep. Let's just go with the basics on sleep, and then we'll talk about meditation, because that's the big one here. No question, I think the best thing you can do is have a sleep time. My goal, my perfect day, when Brian asked me about what's your perfect day, I said I never use an alarm clock. For me to never use an alarm clock means I have to have a set time. A mistake a lot of you listeners make, and I deal with this at workshops all the time, is that you have two sleep times. You have that 10 o'clock Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday sleep time, and then Friday night it's 2 o'clock, Saturday night it's 2 o'clock. And what it does is that messes up all the hormones you get from sleep. You're behind 3 days in a row, you get a rough Sunday night sleep, you're back working Monday. I would prefer, if you could do it, either go to bed every night at midnight, even on weekends, and get up at the same time, or do what I did a couple of years ago. I retired from weekends. Now, it doesn't mean I don't do things on weekends. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means, I'm not going to stay out late, because I like to wake up early on Saturday morning and have an entire full day to myself. A consistent sleep time is probably the best thing you can do. And if you can, over time, get rid of the alarm clock. Now, some research I got from our Special Forces concussion expert, he also stated to me, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is using the snooze. So he said, if you do use an alarm and it wakes you up, you get out of bed and you go. Basically, what you're trying to do is tell your brain, yourself, I had a great night's sleep, let's go kick butt. Obviously, dark room, really important. I use shades on my eyes, especially when I travel. I was down in Las Vegas for a workshop with Tim Anderson not long ago, and I have those, they're called music cozies, are the ones I use. And it was huge. I did wake up early one day, and only when I woke up did I realize that the shades in the room hadn't closed completely. And I woke up because I had a sunbeam across my chest. That's how impactful a non-dark room can be, because your body can sense any sunlight hitting you, which I'd read, but only in this case did I go, that is true. So darkest room you can make, eye shades. In the room next to me, I have a white noise maker. My grand dog is with me for a while, and she needs it at night to keep her quiet. So I'm not using it, but you can also put on, I use brain.fm, but you can put on 8 or 9 hours of sleep music. I use the deep work button on that. I try to go as deep as I can. With meditation, the number one thing I want you to make sure you listen to on this, it is a practice. It is something you need to get reps on. I've mentioned many times on this podcast that I use two. My favorite one is the 1 moment meditation. You'll see me do the 1 moment meditation. When I get to the Delta Sky Club, I always meditate for 1 minute when I first get in there. When I get on a plane, sometime in the boarding process, I meditate for 1 minute. It's a button you press and it goes, and I just count my breath for 1 minute. I'm sure you can use a stopwatch or whatever you have. It's pretty simple stuff. 1 moment meditation. I meditate in the doctor's office. I meditate. These little 1 minute meditations, anytime I feel like I might have any stress in the next hour or so, I meditate. I tell you, a good place to meditate is at the movie theater. It's not so bad because generally I go to more, less kid-friendly movies. A little bit more, Holdovers, for example, didn't have a whole bunch of noisy people in there. American Fiction didn't have a bunch of little kids in there. But if I go to a show that's a little more popular, and people talk the whole time, make a lot of noise, it helps me to meditate for 1 minute. I like the brain.fm meditations. The first couple of years, I used a lot of the guided meditations. I like a few of them. Originally, we could download them and kind of keep them in our queues, but they changed it, so it's harder for me to find them. This is going to be something that might be just personal with me. I like a meditation that I've heard before and I know what's coming. There's this one Brain FM where she uses this stupid cliche and it just hits me in the face every time. I don't like on my meditations, we're going to go on a journey and we're going to walk. It's a beautiful babbling brook. I don't like those. I like the ones that make you count your breaths and go deep. I used to use YouTube meditations, but YouTube has so many commercials now. You know, you'll be in the middle of a meditation, all of a sudden there'll be a monster truck commercial show up. My tools, Music Cozy for the eye mask, which also has Bluetooth here, so you can listen to the meditation. The 1 Moment meditation app is free online, and Brain.fm, and I have the lifetime on that one. It does help, you know, this is one of those cases it might be worth just going to the library, buying books on meditation. I mean, you'll look through it in 2 minutes and you'll never need it again. You could probably sit down in a public library for 5 minutes with meditation books and get all the information you'll ever need. Another thing that does have value, if you get a chance to do it, is also try to find times of quiet. I can do that on my deck out here, and I can do it over here at Wheeler Farm, where you just try to turn off, generally I wear a watch. I always have my pedometer on me, so I don't always have my phone. So I know what time it is because of the watch. I know how many steps I've made because of my pedometer. But go for a walk with no conversation. Walk by yourself. Dogs fine too, of course. Dogs are great. And just try to glass onion, abbreviate the moment. Okay, thanks. I hope that helped. I love meditating. I love going so deep. I know I'm still there, but I'm not sleeping, but I'm not sure where I am. That's one of my favorite moments. I hope it helped. Thank you. Robert asks a question. I feel like I've answered it every week lately, but I've heard you once say that when you hit a certain age, over 55, that you should focus on hypertrophy over strength training, correct? Yeah, Robert, I do think that. And the reason is post 55, lean body mass becomes a struggle, mobility becomes a struggle, and some other things. And I just think it makes sense. Maybe, the first year you're 55, you can do wild variation. You could do a strength program mixed, and then, for 8 weeks, and then 8 weeks of bodybuilding. But where I'm at now, at 68, I really feel like I have to bodybuild. I'm interested in several of your programs, including the Perfect Workout, the Armor Building Formula, the Sparrow Hawk, and the Humane Burpee. Are these programs appropriate for a beginner like me? If not, which program should I focus on? I'm 61, 6 feet tall, and 185 pounds. Well, the nice thing is that the Perfect Workout and the Armor Building Formula, to quote Tim Anderson, are peas and carrots. So I would say this to you. I would do the Armor Building Formula as written, because it is a bodybuilding program. When you finish it, when you finish the week 8, do the Perfect Workout for maybe 2 weeks, shake everything down, and jump back into the ABF. You might be able to get, this is most of a year now. If you get 3 rounds of that, which is going to end up being, just over half a year, you'll be able to assess, or I should say in this case, reassess where you're at and go from there. But armorbuildingformula.com, danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore. I think the Armor Building Formula, especially if you're going to be doing kettlebells, is great for you. The Sparrow Hawk is just a little kettlebell challenge, and the Humane Burpee is a kettlebell challenge. They're not necessarily workouts by themselves, okay? Easy question. I hope I answered it well. Thank you. Colin asks, I'm 40 years old. I'm currently do hill sprints 3 times a week. Wow. Followed by moderate rep calisthenics and kettlebell work, and he gives his examples. I assume I'm training both slow and fast twitch muscle fibers pretty well here. And he has a question mark. And I appreciate, Colin, that you put a question mark there, because I think it's really hard to figure out. I mean, to really figure out what's happening, there's that great show, the documentary about Ricky Brook called the Soul is Greater, and they do they do a fast twitch muscle fiber test on him. But to do it, you got to get anesthetic. They carve a hole inside your arm. They carve some muscle out, and then they test it. That's how you know if you're testing muscle fibers, not just a rep range that some online personality told you. I assume I'm training both slow and fast twitch muscle fibers here? Question mark. I do enjoy this strength endurance work, but it's rather time consuming. Agreed. And my old knee and shoulder injuries are starting to say hello more often. I've heard you mention before that high rep bodybuilding, body weight training is an outdated approach. I hope I didn't say outdated. It's appropriate for what it's appropriate for. If I were to replace the body weight stuff with low rep weighted calisthenics, 5 to 8 reps, and reduce the kettlebell work to lower complexes using heavier kettlebells, would there be much of a difference in outcome? Would I lose a lot of endurance by switching? I guess I'm not certain if both of these approaches are different paths to the same destination. I want to reduce my workload, but keep the balance. Well, you're doing a lot of work with your calisthenics and kettlebell work. The one thing I would say is this, you're 40, and if you think your elbows and shoulders and joints are hurting now, just keep beating on them for 20 more years, and you'll be impressed at how much more pain you're in. I only say that because I know. But one of the reasons I like recommending to people the armor building formula, I feel like I'm pushing it a lot, but I'm not. The listeners, these questions are just, they keep pivoting around the same thing. But if you did your kettlebell work and then followed it with the hill sprints, armor building formula, that's a armor building complex once or twice a week. It's high rep presses once or twice a week, followed by your hill sprints. I think you're going to be nailing just about every quality you have. I didn't read your workout, but you're doing a lot of dips, a lot of snatches, a lot of swings, a lot of push-ups, and it's a lot. But when you're doing something like, and there's nothing wrong with dips, but if your shoulders are barking at you, you're doing snatches, push-ups, dips, and your shoulders hurt. Those are all, in my experience, people get hurt doing those 3 exercises when they got banged up shoulders. So that's my idea. I would really prefer you got yourself on an organized 3 days a week kettlebell program and then did the hill sprints after. Though, frankly, I think you'd even want to start looking at alternating a little bit to maybe 1 week do 3 hill sprints, the next week do 2, and then the other day do a long walk. The third week do 1, 2 days of long walks. The fourth day, 3 days of long walks, and then repeat the process over and over. You got to have some variety to your program. And Colin, you do a lot of work, but you might start thinking about a little bit more variation. Okay, thank you. Robert asked a question. It's always a tough one. I plan to do Mass Made Simple this spring, lifting in my backyard. I'm not sure if I'll have a training partner. I'm working on convincing one of the guys, but 50 reps doesn't seem to be too exciting for him. I feel comfortable with my squats by myself. Yeah, I can see that. I have a sawhorse safeties, and I've done breathing squats in a few programs before. I've been thinking about bench press safety, and thank you for thinking about that. And I got an option for you. What's the best substitution if I'm lifting alone? I don't want you to be benching by yourself, folks. I have that, in my big cage, I've got that, I've got the pins and I got those safety things. But even with that, I would worry about bench pressing by myself. If something bad happens, and something bad can happen, I just worry about, being there a little bit too long before I get saved, or even worse. Now, I know of 2 people in the San Francisco Bay Area who died bench pressing by themselves. And not a lot of people bench press by themselves in the San Francisco Bay Area. Not a lot of people lift weights in the San Francisco Bay Area. Not a lot of people exercise in the Bay Area. So 2 people who train at home dying, to me, is pretty high. Would you recommend switching out for ring dips? He says you can do 8 to 10 with body weight depending on the day. Dumbbell bench or barbell dumbbell incline press. Well, actually, let me just go like this. You do have the one on pressing in Mass Made Simple, but we don't have barbell pressing. So you could do barbell presses. That's my first piece of advice, okay? And follow that up with the single. So that's a lot of overhead pressing, but I think your shoulders will like it. From there, I would say slide to the dumbbell incline press, though I find I can barbell incline press fairly safely. My old barbell incline was that straight, it was just one straight one. The one I have now is the adjustable bench. With the 45-degree straight incline, if you did miss, you could lean and throw it and it would just hit the ground, make a lot of noise, but it would still just hit the ground. Dumbbell bench, it's gonna be hard for you to have enough weight to make it work. And then ring dips would be my least favorite, and only because for most people, that's just not. If you're banging out 8 to 10 reps of the ring dip, great exercise. But for Mass Made Simple, it's a little bit more gymnastics than mass building. So for me, I would suggest barbell military, then the barbell incline. If you have enough weight, the dumbbell incline, the dumbbell bench press, and then ring dips, if you just insist that you have to do them. Wow, that was just a load of fun. Great questions today. A reminder, if you have questions, please send them to the podcast, and it's at this address, podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I love answering your questions, and especially when we get a good mix like this. It was a lot of fun. I did feel like I said armorbuildingformula.com, danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore a lot of times today, but the questions were specific about that, and I think it was appropriate. For those of you who don't know, my books are available online on Amazon, on OT Publishing. You can look that up, OT Publishing, or On Target Publishing. And of course at my website at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore. I have a lot of books. I'm working on 2 more as we speak. And if I can ever be of service, let me know. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.